let's have, okay, this morning, let's have my wife, okay? She'll come down and be with me. That would be awesome. Yes, big, yeah, like her. And then, let's see, who else do I have? Where did Wonton go? Is Juan here? Okay, let's have Juan come up, and he'll share a little bit. Let's have Mike come up, and she's totally excited about that. And then let's have Jeff come up. Come on, Mike and Jeff, come on, that'll be good. All right, everybody give them a big round of applause. There we go. All righty. Okay. Go ahead and take your mics out. Just I'll hold them, and hopefully those will work because, yeah, okay. All right, so let's talk quickly. Here we go. Are you guys ready? You guys ready to roll? Yeah, I'm so excited about it all.
It's working.
Yay. Can we see it first?
You want to show it first? Yeah. Okay, we'll show the video first. Here we go. Turn it up, would you?
Don't you think
Okay, so that's pretty much Hondo in a nutshell. Thank you, tech team, for making that happen. We have 5 computers back there, which is more power than it took them to get the shuttle to like the moon. And it took us a while to get that to happen today, but appreciate it, guys. Thank you a ton. Okay, so we're going to walk through this quickly, and I just want to give you some perspective, and then we're going to talk just a little about what God's been doing here at the church, what God's been doing in the life of individuals, and I think what should be doing in all of us, were it not for our prevention of that. So, I want to go quickly through the things, and then you guys can chime in. Okay, so this is what we did this year. We took roughly about $15,000 in the construction budget. When we got there on site, we immediately go to the people who are working on the mission site. We just basically go, okay, what do you need? What do you need done? The new manager said, you know what we really need done? We need the church completed. And the reason that we need church completed is because it serves as our school and our place of worship. And we're training the kids when it comes to how they worship God and they express God. And they're working on little choral groups and they're working on little Sunday school classes, and they've got a school in there. But the church looks like a construction zone. It's kind of a mess. It's concrete floors. They're not cleaned. And so just for perspective purposes, it's walls, a roof, and a concrete floor, all of which the Vine Church has had great part in making happen. We've constructed most of the church. That's come from the Vine Church. It's just not finished. And so we said, okay, let's do that. What's that going to take? Well, a lot of it was cosmetic. And so we spent, the greater part of the group spent a tremendous amount of time painting and finishing this church. So we're going to put bars on the outside, which seals the church, and they can have sound equipment and stuff inside and not worry about it being stolen. We put up all this paint. The colors were crazy loud, but that's how they do in Honduras. And so it was a huge undertaking. It took us all 5 days that we were working there on site to get that up to where it was, most of our group. The rest of our group that wasn't working on that was working in the new main house that the Vine Church has almost completely constructed, finishing it, which the only thing left to finish in this house was turning a closet into a bathroom, which made it functional for the upstairs, and then doing all the trim work in the house. So basically we put up the walls, but a lot of the finish work had been left undone. So we divided some guys out, Juan and Sean and a couple of, and Danny became the trim work team, and Jeff alone became the, I'm gonna convert this bathroom, and so that became a project. In addition to those projects, we were going to the feeding stations and bringing funds and food costs and stuff to hand out, and we'll kind of walk through that in a minute. We were, in addition to that, my wife was taking trips into the hospital and providing supplies and medicines and dealing with kids. And then in addition to that, we had a new component this year that we're going to spend some time talking to you about, which was that Mike Oshapinski, who's the deacon in charge of foreign missions here at the church, has been doing by himself, just as a personal devotion, some things with families in Honduras, in this particular area that we work, who are deeply in need. And so then the church met him with what he's already started and completed some work that Mike had begun with some individual families, and we'll explain that to you next. So that's really what we're doing. And it was like, when you, the group, it's difficult, because most of the group spent time painting. Even on the last day, when we spent time talking about it, we were like, what are we really going to accomplish this week? And then as we began to list it, it was like, oh, yeah, there's a lot. In addition to that, we hired 12 guys, and they were finishing building what's called the bodega, which would be the main storage area for all of the conceded property, which is 3 homes, serves about 40 kids on that property. And so all of that happened this week through the Vine Church, your guys' support, and this team's effort and sacrifice to go. And so we're going to spend a little time talking about that for just a moment. All right, so favorite thing?
My favorite thing definitely was the hospital.
Okay.
There were so many workers this year that after the first day, I kind of realized that I would be better spent, at the hospital since there were so many hands.
Yeah. Besides that, she's not very good with a roller.
I get it all over me. It ends up on my clothes instead of the wall. It never turns out well.
Okay, so let's walk through the hospital thing real quick. Just since we don't have a lot of the pictures and stuff to show this morning because our computers. What's that like? In a nutshell, quickly, just knock it out. What's it like?
It's pretty much hell on earth. It's disgusting, it's stinky, there's tons of need, there's a lot of pain and suffering from...
She's not exaggerating. I won't go. So when we get there, she'll say, hey, I'm going to go to the hospital today. You want to go with me? And I'm like, man down, not going, not going to happen. Can't do it. That was our word on the trip for when you just have to check out emotionally. Man down, man down. A lot of emotional stuff happens. The hospital has an odor to it that is so strong that I just cannot consume it. It's springtime in Baghdad. It is too much. It is too much to happen. And so it's unsanitary. There's not rainwater in most of the rooms. It's hard to describe what it's exactly like. But if you find yourself in there, you are in a desperate situation. And tell us about just the little girl and your experience with her and what that was like.
You don't have the pictures?
I don't. We don't. Just make a visual picture for
There
him.
was one on there.
Well, there is a picture on the video of the little girl in the hospital. Her name's Angelina, and her mother, her father, and her all have AIDS. Her mother is probably going to die within a couple weeks. She's in the hospital. Angelina is there most of the time by herself because her dad has to leave to go work. And there's not a lot of education about AIDS, so they're pretty much scared of her. Kind of just leave her in there by herself. She won't eat.
When you say by herself, we're talking about in a makeshift kind of crib, no sheet on the mattress, just left there kind of like alone. And so Kat spent, what do you say, 2 days, 3 days, going down there and basically hold the baby for most of the trip.
Yeah, we took a group in there to assess the needs, to see what medication was needed. The first day, Raina, Zuli, Yubi, myself, Frankie, a couple other people. And then when we went back the second day, Yubi and I, we thought it was just going to be a short trip, just to check in. And we ended up spending most of the day holding Angelina and just spending time with her.
Yeah.
Walking back.
Yeah.
Yes, and walking multiple times.
Juan, best part of the trip.
For me, I would have to say the soccer game was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I really like the
Explain
soccer
it to
game.
him.
So first day we get there, we were playing with the kids, and then we went to a feeding station.
Right.
We just pretty much, they made this big bowl of rice, and we kind of gave it to the kids out of the back of the truck, which is an exterior zone because all the little kids are just lining up with the little bowls. And so after that, I realized that I wasn't going to be able to do much as far as going to like the hospital and man down. But we did get to go to, we took them up to the soccer. We took like this little train that took us all the way over there, and they were dancing and singing in the train. And then we got to the soccer field. They got the little uniforms on. We were stretching like we were going to play the U.S. soccer team, and there was really a whole bunch of little kids that we decided to teach them.
How would you describe what Sandy and Sarah did in that soccer field?
What the what?
What Sandy and Sarah did in that soccer field? How would you describe it?
I think the scientific name for it is total abuse. I mean, they were like kids were getting their faces trip, but we taught them the value of losing and building
value
value.
of losing. I
We
like
beat them
that.
both times.
When Juan says we took them, there's 40.
We got them back.
There's 40
US.
kids in the orphanage. We took those 40 children out to play on which is weird. Let's say this is very weird. In a very poor area of Honduras, in an extremely poor city, where the average day's wage for somebody who's a skilled laborer is about $12 to $14 a day, there's a soccer field, and believe it or not, it has AstroTurf. We rented it out for $23. Is that about right? $23 US to rent the whole thing for like a couple of hours. And we took all the 40 kids out there, we threw them on the soccer field, and beat them like a redhead stepchild. It was great. It was great. Sarah bowled a couple of them over. It was great.
She picked a couple of them up like this.
Yeah,
She was like,
it was great. And they had an absolute amazing time. Amazing time. All right, so we're going to spend a little time talking about this real quick, and Mike hates this, but I have to have him up for this part. Walk us through a little bit of the 3 things that you've done so far. Just give us a little snippet of what you've done so far, just on your own. He loves this.
First family is Lorena. She's
Okay.
a single mother with 5 daughters.
Okay.
We met the daughters just kind of on accident. One day they came to the casitas
Right.
from the daycare across from there.
Right.
Just used the water. And from there, they just remember our names every time.
Right.
It took about a year and a half or 2 years to even meet the mother. And then right away, we kind of seen the need. You know, single mother lives in a really tiny place.
Right.
And the next trip out there, we was looking for a bigger house for them. There just happened to be 2 brand new houses being built. And so right away, we went and met with the owner, put him in a new house.
Okay, I want to walk slowly through this because he's moving quickly. When he says, hey, we saw this house, okay, and he's like, I think this would be a great opportunity for Lorena, who's the mom, and these children, she has 4, she's 5, I'm sorry, 5, to have a new home. So what does that entail? What's rent entail for like this little house?
How much?
Yeah, I mean, like, just give us a ballpark. Yeah, so he gets like, Mike goes, I want to make sure you understand this. Not like the church is going to do this. Mike goes, me and Raina are going to do this. We're going to pay for this home so that this family can move in out of this kind of really crazy situation, and she can kind of get a leg up. Does that make sense? Okay, run us to the next one just real quick. Back up, just one more thing. Out of those 5, when those 5 kids, how many days a week do you Skype with them?
Almost every day.
Okay. So I want to make sure you understand this. He's provided them also with a way for them to connect with him over Skype. And they contact them almost every day, and they consider him like a father. Does that make sense? Okay, give us the next one.
Okay, then there's Saley and Christina.
Right. Sailing.
Saley's the granddaughter.
Right.
She lives with Christina and her uncle.
Right. And the whole group was in their original home, which was like an eye-opening experience. Go ahead.
Christina doesn't work, or she wasn't working, and so they kind of relied on the FEMA station for sailing.
Right.
So we was talking to them about a business they can start, be able to provide for themselves.
Right.
So we came with the clothing idea.
Right.
So we've been sending boxes of clothes for her to sell.
Okay, so let's stop and walk through this one more time, right? Mike finds this lady. She's a grandmother. She's too old to be working in like a manual labor kind of job. They live in a crazy, like, I can't even explain to you where they live. And he's identified this family as most in need because there's 2 girls who work for the mission who are on site at a feeding station in one of the poorest districts of town. Mike goes to them and says, you know, who's most in need? They say, well, this woman who has a granddaughter, who has a, uncle that's living there too. They're the most in need that we know. Mike goes, okay, let's figure out a way to help them. And this is where I want you to get this. This is a really neat little twist. He goes, instead of just making them completely reliant on us, let's figure out a way to give them a way to get a leg up. So Mike takes old clothes. Many of you have donated to Mike this little mission that he's been doing. He takes old clothes. He boxes those old clothes up. He sends them down. There's a service that we use to send stuff to Honduras. It goes to this grandmother. She resells the clothes. On her first box, she makes $250 American dollars. So then she takes that money and provides for her family. Does that make sense? Like, it's just a little idea. We would call that like microeconomics, like micro business. We say, how can we take a little micro business and give this person an idea or a leg up so that they can expand their potential? That makes sense? All right, and give us the last one.
Okay, the last one, same thing with the girls from the feeding station. I asked who was most in need.
Right.
And it was Juan. He's a single father with 6 kids. And he can't really go out and work because he has to stay there to watch them.
Right. Little kids too.
Yeah, so same thing. We asked what can he do from home to be able to provide for them.
Right.
And we didn't really know what it would be until we went out to dinner with him while we was there.
Right.
And he just said, if I had a welder.
They drive me in a van. Like, we get there, and it's literally Will driving, Frankie in the front, And then Mike in the back, and they're like, good in the back. I'm like, all right. And then we bring this guy over, and I'm translating for Mike. And then Frankie filtering, translating for Mike.
Right.
And this man is just amazing. His faith is something beyond anything I've ever seen. He rides his bicycle with his 6 kids overnight to get to the temple and pray.
Yeah. So we take, I want to make sure you understand this. This happened all in time. So number one, Mike doesn't call me up and go, hey, should we do this? Hey, should we do that? Mike does all of this out of his own financial resources. Him and his wife do this completely on their own. They've taken this leap. It's been awesome, right? So when we get down there, we're introduced to this guy that we know Mike's already started a relationship and wants to help. We sit down with him over a meal and we begin this discussion. Me, Juan, and Mike, and we start going, what do you do? What have you done? Well, he's been in this injury, he's done some construction. All of a sudden, it arises from the conversation that he's a welder, that he knows how to weld. And we go, okay, so if you had a welding machine, would you be able to have work from your home? Oh yes, I'd have work forever, right? Because everything down in Honduras is metal. There's metal bars on everything. There's metal bars on every home. The bikes, there's a tremendous amount of bikes that are getting welded and all this kind of stuff. So he goes, I'd have endless supply of work. Well, those are the things we like to hear from a microeconomic standpoint, because we want to be able to provide someone with the ability to make financial gains and resources, not just make them reliant. And so I'm looking at Mike and go, this is a no-brainer. Let's buy the welding machine. There's a little hardware store in town. We can find a welding machine. And Mike's like, yeah, let's do it. So we take, the resources. The church meets Mike where he's already started, finds the welding machine, buys the welding machine, drops it off, and we already have pictures from Juan. He already sent us pictures this week through the Girls in the Feeding Station who have a phone. Sent us pictures this week. He's already working and making financial gain for his family. Already. That all starts with one person.
Amen.
Yeah. Talk to us about your favorite part.
Definitely number one.
Yeah.
Favorite part always is going out to dinner with the girls.
Okay.
That is, it's their only chance to get out and dress up pretty and feel good about themselves, and we're able to make that happen. And it's really neat to see how they change from being at the big house to when we bring them out to dinner. They come out of their shells, they have a good time, and it really shows why we're there. I really enjoy that. That's probably my favorite part every year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And tell us just a little bit about the work you were doing.
We converted a closet into a bathroom with no plumbing, no wastewater, no water in, no water out, and we did it. I say I.
By we.
And I'm not self-glorifying here for myself or anything like that, but
We supported him from a distance.
because it was really smelly. And it was an understatement. We had a direct line coming from the septic tank that was in there that pretty much stuck up the whole room until we put the proper P-trap in. But it was quite an accomplishment for me.
Right.
It was amazing to see what God can do through me, because there's no way I could have been able to do it by myself. And I didn't think I was going to be able to finish it, to be honest with you. But we did, and it was fun.
Yeah, it really was. It was awesome. All right, really quick. Favorite kid? Was you most connected with?
I would have to say Angelina, obviously.
Okay. And okay, yeah. Okay. You have any favorite kid?
For me, it was like a couple, but I would have to say the twins and Elmer. Elmer is just amazing, and I know Lourdes and Sean have a special connection with him. He also has his own little story that's pretty heartbreaking. Stuff that no kid should know. And
Right.
yeah, but those three just stole my heart. I was gonna bring them in my bed.
Right. Favorite kid?
Kids of the families, but see it as English.
Yeah. Okay.
Wendy in English.
Okay. I'm gonna give you my favorite experience real quick. One of the families that Mike's has started working with is this grandmother Sealing, and she has a granddaughter, or no, what's the granddaughter? Christina, and the granddaughter's name is Sealing, sorry. And then this little uncle, and Mike was able to get them this home secured so that they could move into a better part of town, and she continued her little business from this better part of town, near where Lorraine and her family are. So when we get there, we go to her current home, Christina's current home, and it's just like, and there's no way to explain it to you, so I'm going to try. But the group's like, okay, you know, he explains to her, hey, we've got this house ready for you, but this is all she's ever known. You know what I'm saying? This is all she's ever known. And she's like, okay, well, let's go see it. And we can kind of tell really quickly that there's like a tremendous amount of like nervousness about what's about to happen. Because you've got like 24 gringos, and then they're dragging her in like this van to this new house in a different part of town. I mean, it's kind of crazy. But she comes, and we walk her through this house, and she's like kind of admiring, but very kind of like guarded. You know, we kind of tell. Everybody's kind of, Yuvi's doing the translation work, and everybody's kind of like, okay, she's really guarded. Like, this is, we're not sure if this is working. Like, maybe she's not getting this. They go through this whole deal. It was really great. We go through this whole deal, and at some point, like, they're asking, hey, how do you feel about this? Are you okay? What do you think? You seem nervous, the whole deal. And at some point, it comes up in that translation discussion, okay, well, how does this get paid? Who pays for this? You know? And it was really great because, well, UV goes, well, Mike's paying for this. And like at that point, it like clicked for her. She was like, wait a minute, let me get this straight. And you can see like, kind of like the joy kind of rise up, like, hey, it's something great is just about to happen here. And then she explained to Yuvi in Spanish, which none of the gringos really understand. She explained to her like, hey, communicate to Mike my Thanksgiving and kind of space that out. And then Yuvi was like, man down, can't do it. You know what I'm saying? Can't do it, tears. Everybody, it's a powerful thing when you see what one person that's motivated, that is surrounded by a community of faith that cares, can do when one person's vision and motivation meets the resources of a larger group, and people start to see impact. It is a powerful, powerful thing when you see that take place. And we got to see that over and over and over again in this setting. And I just think that was okay. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
I really liked, we also met Mike and Raina to furnish these two houses,
Right.
Christina and Celi's house, and then we also bought some new beds. And they had, was it 3 or 4 of the kids? 4 of them sleeping on this foam pad, this disgusting, dirty, like cot foam pad. And then the rest of them slept with one in this bed. So when we brought the bed over to them and built it, like all of the kids were on top of the bed. They were just like squealing. One of them fell off. He was a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah.
But they loved it.
Yeah. That's good.
Fell off.
Yeah. Anybody want to chime in on what the most fun you did? Most fun experience on the trip? Anything? Because for me, it was just hanging out with Juan.
At the hardware stuff.
Translating for Jeff the hardware.
What? I mean, it's like sign language. Okay, you know that thing that you put at the bottom and then just duct tape?
Anybody else? Anything fun? You know, I think the airport was fun.
The airport.
Oh, Jesus.
You want to tell them
Juan
about
got called into customs and had some.
Okay, so if your name is Juan Gonzalez and you travel to Honduras, for the love of God, just go with a lot of extra time because you get pulled into customs.
Was it customs or what are they technically called?
I'm not sure. I mean, I know, like, they pulled me to customs, and I'm like, okay. First of all, the guy that I get to on the line, he's like eating sits and like spitting away, and he's just not wanting to be there. And Sarah had the vision not to even go in that line. But I'm like, these people are taking too long, I'm going on this line. So I get on the line, and the guy's like, you pass, you're good. And as I'm walking away, I'm good to go. He comes back, he was like, oh wait, I made a mistake. When I went to the second page, you didn't make it. So next thing you know, they bring me to the back, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just like,
The whole group's gone.
The whole group is gone. They abandoned ship. Man down. So I'm just sitting there, and there's a Japanese guy that they can't translate for, and they're like looking all over the place. I mean, they're gonna call like Japan and have somebody translate for the guy. I was like, you have two computers up, why don't you just use Google Translate and it'll answer back, which pissed them off even more. So, yeah, I was there for like maybe 30 minutes, run away.
30 minutes
I come back and our lovely group is hurting so deep in thought while eating and laughing. So.
It was awesome. Good time. You pretended to have a cavity search. And we all got concerned. It was good. I just want to say, let me just ask you this. How long have you been coming to church?
I actually started to the Zion Church the week or two before the first Honduras trip. And as soon as I came...
Last year. Okay.
So
a week or two before last year's trip.
I came right before last year's trip, and I wanted to do it, but my passport was not done.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, so it was something that I definitely wanted to do this year.
Now, when you first came, what were you? I mean, from just a standpoint of your personal faith at that point. What brought you? Where were you at faith? All that kind of stuff.
Lourdes brought me.
Lourdes brought you?
Lourdes is my identity.
That's who we can blame, huh?
Yeah, shame be upon you.
Okay.
And I have been going to another church in St. Cloud, and every time we see each other every 6 months, I kind of give her an update, okay, here's where I'm at. And when I was starting going to that other church, I was very excited. I was on fire, and then slowly I started to just backing away. And so she's like, well, I started going to this church, give it a try.
Right.
So then I came in, and I met you.
Right.
And the next week I was going to Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And
I remember that. Okay.
Right. And because then the week after that, when I came in, you remembered. And
right.
that really made an impression on me. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, so it's not just coming in and you were like another face.
Right.
But throughout that, we were just getting ready to go to Honduras.
Right. Have you ever been on a mission trip before?
No, I've done hurricane relief before, but it's nothing to that.
And have you ever been involved in a church before? I mean, now you've started serving. We
No.
asked you to start training with some of the deacons, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, that's a first for me. I mean, it's totally a different outlook.
Did you think when you came here, golly, they're gonna really rope me in?
No, and Lourdes is being there throughout the whole way, because I remember I wasn't, as shocking as this may sound, I'm not very friendly and stuff like that. I'm very shy. So Lourdes tells me, she's like, oh, you're going to small group. I was like, no, I'm not. I was like, I gotta wash my hair. I got stuff going on. My banking and my checking doesn't. So she's like, no, you're going to small group. And that was my first small group with Anthony and Sarah and Sean Lourdes, and it was amazing. From there on, I just loved everything since.
Right. It's what do you think it was for you that got you to a place that you were ready to serve in such a way, or get involved in such a way? I mean, what happened to you?
Yeah, it was just that first small group really changed me.
Oh, wait a minute! Back up the truck. You joined a small group?
Lourdes made me join the small group.
But a lot of influence.
Yeah, you guys have to understand. For me, I question a lot of stuff, and even in the small group, I was questioning stuff, and I'm very okay. Well, what about this? Well, what about that? And
just from a faith standpoint.
Yeah, from faith, okay, but the church, all the stuff, the Old Testament says, and it's really old. I was very into that Old Testament, New Testament thing, and I remember that Dan Miller in the middle of a small group told me, how does that help you in your life? What does that do? Which I've never seen this man get passionate about things. And I was like, he's right. I'm making all these things, and
don't water it down, Mark. Y'all's gonna come to blows that night.
What? And it was just very life-changing for me, because when you think about it, when you see society, you watch the news, you watch everything else, you see all this negativity towards Christianity or your faith, and in reality, it teaches you just good things,
Right.
Why are you so negative about something that teaches you to be kind, to be loving, to forgive? And it really changed my perspective on life after that. And I don't know, I wasn't coming to church anymore just to get something out of it. I also wanted to contribute something to it, and it really feels like a family.
Okay.
Amen.
Awesome. Okay, give him a big round of applause. Give him a big round of applause. Thanks, guys. I just want to say a couple things, and then we're going to kind of close out our time, but I want to share this with you. Because when it comes to, I've just been thinking about this, and I just want to share this with you. We usually end up spending a lot of time in this passage this time of year just because it's focused on these things. But I want to read this to you and see if this doesn't stick out. All right, here we go. You ready? Let's see. James chapter 1, verse 19 says this. This is interesting. I'm gonna go through a couple things. Oh man, it's up. All right, here we go. And it's not up. Okay, just pretending. It's a fake out. Okay, here we go. James chapter 1, verse 19. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen and slow to speak. You hear that? Quick to listen and slow to speak. So James, addressing the church, is like, shut up and listen. Right? Quick to listen, slow to speak. Quick to listen, slow to speak. Then listen to this. When you slip down just a little bit further, look at verse 22. If you're looking at this with me, you can. If not, I'll just read it to you. It says, do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Quick to listen, slow to speak, but do what it says. Are you with me? Quick to listen, slow to speak, do what it says. If you had to put that in like paraphrase language, that would be quick to listen, slow to speak, but definitely don't let your words be empty. Let them be with action, right? Words have to have action, right? And then listen to this last part. This is where it gets a little heavy. It says, verse 27, religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this, to look after orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from polluted from the world. Keep oneself from being polluted from the world. Look after orphans and widows in their distress, and keep yourself from being polluted from the world. Now I want you just to see this, and it's just really simple. I'm overwhelmed by this. I think that one of the problems within current Americanized Christianity is that there's a tendency in all of us to be drawn to some of the same failings that James is addressing with the original church, which is this, that we could turn this faith, our faith community, our faith experience, our faith life, into something that we just think of as an ethereal thing. Like, it's just something like a concept, like an idea that we could listen, we could talk a lot about it, but we could do nothing. Do you know what I mean? That we could think of faith as something like showing up, like as if church attendance was what we were supposed to do, and that was our accomplishment. Or that talking about faith was enough, or talking a good game was enough, or talking the right way was enough, right? I love this. He's like, hey, make sure that you know that brothers and sisters, you should be slow to speak, that you should be ready to listen, that you should be willing to act. Right? And so I was overwhelmed by this idea, especially this week with some of the things that have been going on with the Vine and with the mission, is that I think each and every individual here that has been called by the Spirit, filled by God, there should be at some point be a motivating movement, force, inertia, whatever from within to see action come out of that faith. Does that make sense? Like it should change the way we spend resources or money. It should change the way we spend time, make personal sacrifice, do work. It should change things in us. And if you come and you attend and you're a part and you hear and you listen and nothing ever happens, I would just challenge you with maybe you've missed the boat when it comes to faith. And what I see with all of these people who are dedicated to take the time and come and sacrifice is this is what faith looked like when it's worked out. Let me be clear. Doesn't mean everybody has to go to Honduras, and not everybody will. Not everybody in this congregation will. It doesn't mean you have to go on a mission field. Not everybody will. But I think at some point, out of your life, if you're a believer, should flow a response to what God's doing internally. There should be an outworking of that. There should be sacrifice. There should be a willingness to step up. There should be kindness. There should be an obliteration of bitterness. There should be this aggressive sense of like care and concern for those who are most in need. And in this passage, James says those two categories are orphans and widows. And I think we know those are two tough categories, even now. Right? And so when we're down there and when we're spending this time together in Honduras as a church family, and many of you have helped supported to make that budget happen so that we can accomplish a number of mission tasks. As we come together as a church family, that's the moment where hearing and listening and talking about religion becomes real. That makes sense? It all becomes really real at that point. Because I think there's this temptation for us to go, let's just talk about faith. What if, what if you went to Honduras or China or Africa or Egypt or, I guess that's in Africa, or whatever. What if you went to other countries and just sang songs? Or you preached, you talked about God. You talked about God. You know what I'm saying? What if you talked a good game? What if you just listened? What if you didn't ever go? You know what I'm saying? I think at some point, real faith always has a go aspect to it. Whether that's at work, at home, with your friends, people you come in contact with, people in 192, God bless them, whatever. At some point in your life, there's a go aspect. That's why Jesus, with his disciples in Matthew chapter 28, he says, go ye therefore into all nations and make disciples. Go, right? There's this kind of, hey, guess what? What I've poured into you is going to come out. The people around you are going to be touched by it. You're going to change people's lives. What motivates one guy to say, hey, if I divert a number of resources here, I could make huge impact in many families. And then what if the church body met me in this and we did this together? Man, do you see what I'm saying? What happens when faith gets worked out in your life? Well, for James, he says, true faith, true religion, not just talk, not just coming and sitting. True religion is taking care of those who are most in need. And maybe there's some people that are most in need even in our community, right? I just think that's a powerful challenge to us all. And what I learn when I come back from Honduras every year is that real faith looks like this. Real faith looks like those who are willing to give, serve, dedicate, pour energy into, all that kind of stuff. And if you're not a part of something that's willing to serve, give, pour energy, you've never been challenged. You've never stepped out. You've never said, hey, I'll dedicate these resources to. If you've never stroked the check, gone on the trip, spoke up, said it, given, helped, whatever it is, when it comes to faith, real religion does that. And if you haven't, if it's been all talk and all hot air and all this thing, it's probably not real. Are you with me? Okay. Let's take a moment. I just want to close this today kind of in a different way.